I have a million questions that I'm asked all the time about being an entrepreneur. What's it like, and is it scary being an entrepreneur, and how did you get started? And there's a million questions people want to ask you. And I thought to myself, bang, one day, wouldn't it be great to have an entrepreneur's masterclass where I can bring some of these unbelievable people, people like we read about them and we read their stories. They're legendary, but we only see them on film and we have visualization of what they are. But actually to sit down with them and talk to them, I thought, wouldn't that be a wonderful way to learn? Nothing's new. I remember watching the old actor classes several years ago, how they visualized and how they created their careers and how they just kept getting better and better. And I thought to myself at that time, what a wonderful way for a young person to learn the craft directly from the old guys. I thought it was a very elegant way to teach. Today's guest is Mr. Michael Obrian, and I've known Michael for decades. And I probably am looking more forward to this interview than you can imagine. And to conduct the interview, I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Tim.
Thanks so much, Peter. And like you, I'm really looking forward to this conversation with Michael and learning more about his background in business, as well as philanthropy, as well as community service and the boards that he served on, and just the key takeaways from his journey. And so, Michael, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a real joy to be with you.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you, Peter. It's my pleasure to be here today. And just a little bit about my background. I'm 79 years old. I'm happily married. I have 6 children, and if you can believe it, I have 13 grandchildren. I was born in Penticton, British Columbia, a small town a couple of hundred miles north of Vancouver. I had loving parents. My father was a well-known lawyer in Penticton. Went through high school, went to a private school for 3 years, a British private school called Vernon Preparatory School. I think that really might have mucked me up a little bit in my life, but in any event, I was always troubled at school. I was kind of a daydreamer, and dreamt this or that, and when it came time to graduate, I was missing a few subjects, and I took off for Europe for a year, came back, entered SurePass, and I did finally get my matric. But at a young age, I think it was about 19, joined the Bank of Montreal as a teller. My annual salary was $1,450 per year. You can imagine my excitement when 6 months later I got an increase to $1,600 a year. So it kind of gives you an idea of where we've come from in those years. But I actually was associated with the bank for about 8.5 years. When I left, I was a senior director for British Columbia, with I traveling throughout the province, inspecting various branches. From there, I actually joined a company called Pitfield Mackay Ross, which was a major national investment firm in Canada. We had offices in all provinces. And within the funny thing, I'll just give you a funny little story too. When I wanted to get into the investment business, and I approached a firm, and I had to write an aptitude test. And the results from the aptitude test came back and said I was far too conservative to be a success in the investment business. Fortunately, I did apply at another company. They took me on, and within 3 years, I won Rookie of the Year award for the whole company. Within 5 years, I won VIP. That was the top sales guy in all of Canada, and I continued to win that award, I think, for my entire time with Pitfield Mackay Ross. So I certainly learned a lot during those years. From there, I joined Canarum, a major investment company out of Vancouver, again across Canada. I came in as a vice president director, learned a lot during that year, but from there, I became president and CEO, and I took on a major investment in a company called Plan-Based Capital Corporation. and we acquired shortly thereafter a company called CM Oliver, which was the oldest investment firm in Canada, incorporated in 1907. So I was I was there about 8 years, and it was amazing that 8 years what I learned and what I did during that period of time. From there, we sold the company. We had 800 employees, and it was a good time to exit, quite honestly, from the investment business. But from there, I've basically been focused just on managing my own investments and getting involved in the nonprofit world. Philanthropy has been a major part of my life for the last 20 years. And I've been involved with education and the arts for those years. And so that's a little bit of my background.
What really helped enable that success?
It was all of those events that occurred during my early years, the learning that I experienced, the people that I had met, the mentors that came into my life at an early age. They gave me the confidence, basically, always to take this to the next step. I learned a lot about myself and my abilities when I was with the Tipu Mackay Ross, the first investment firm that I joined. I don't think there was any one thing that occurred, but I will be honest in that when I left Canaccord, or left Tipu Mackay Ross to join Canaccord, I was pretty confident, but I did learn so much being at 3.5 years at Canaccord too as a director. I learned so much about management. That's so important to have a real team behind you, because no one person can ever do it by themselves. They absolutely need the right team to take yourself forward. I didn't realize I was an entrepreneur in my early days. I think I always was an entrepreneur, but it was all of those events that occurred during my early years, the learning that I experienced, the people that I had met, the mentors that came into my life at an early age. They gave me the confidence, basically, always to take this to the next step.
Tell me a little bit about the mentors that you've had throughout your life.
I've had 6 mentors, I think, in my life. My father being one, and my father was always there for me. My father always looked at it as being a very brilliant person. Probably had the largest law practice outside of Vancouver. And I was kind of stumbling, didn't know where I was going, but he was always there for good advice. Not that he ever told me this or that, but always looked at the pros and cons and advised me of the possibilities, both negatively and positively. And I always remember when I was with the Bank of Montreal at one point, I was in the city of Prince Rupert, and one of the accounts that the bank had was a sports company which was in bankruptcy, and I always loved sports. So I was thinking of leaving the bank and taking over the sports company. And I always remember he wrote me a 6-page letter outlining all the positive and negatives about such a move. And as a result of that, I decided, no, this is not the right time, carried on. And thank God, because my life would have been far different than it is today. So my father was definitely a big part of my growth and learning experience. Then I must admit that there was a gentleman by the name of Ray McLean, who, as a result of my being in Prince Rupert in the early days with the Bank of Montreal, I was referred much later when I was at Pitfield Mackay Ross. I went to Prince Rupert and I was introduced to this man. He was very wealthy. He was a judge. He owned half the Cayman Islands and apartments and things of that nature, and got along extremely well. I dealt, and he was a client of mine for many, many years. And along the way, Ray McLean, I brokered to Ray McLean a company called Gateway Casinos. And Ray actually was able to, there were 38 bidders, but he was the winner. Purchased Gateway Casinos for $2 million. And he phoned me the next day and he said, Michael, you've been there for me. You've helped me a lot. Would you like a piece of the action? I said, Ray, I'd be happy with 10%. He said, okay. He said, I tell you what, I've got financing for half the deal. Send me over $100,000 and you've got 10%. Well, you know, the next week I gave up 10% of my 10% to bring in the right management. But this was 14 years later, fast forward, and that asset was sold for $1.3 billion. And what I learned from Ray, though, was he was a master negotiator. And I learned a lot about negotiating skills from that man. So Ray was definitely one of my mentors. Robert Friedland, who again, I've known Robert for probably 30 years, became one of my major clients, Pitfield Mackay Ross. I helped finance this young company called Diamond Fields. It's a long, long story. We won't get into the actual story, but I came in with myself and many of my clients, we came in and purchased Diamond Fields in the $4 range. And it went all the way up to $160. And but again, Robert, the learning I had through Robert was, I mean, this guy was genius, and I learned a lot about salesmanship, the art of he was a master at this salesmanship, and I've been involved with Robert even to this day with his Ivanhoe mines out of Africa, and today it's totally financed by the Chinese, but it's the highest grade copper complex in the world today. And I've got Darryl is another mentor. Darryl, I brought in again. I'm talking about going back to the team. I realized when I acquired control of CM Oliver, I needed the right team to take this to the next step. And I brought in Darryl as the to head up corporate finance. He became a partner. Darryl was the guy that crossed the T's and dotted the I's. And I brought in the deals and I brought in the reps to make it all happen. So it was actually an incredible team that we had, and we brought in the right people below us as well. And Darryl today is a good friend. We do a lot together, not just on the investment side, but we've traveled a lot together. We play tennis together. But definitely, and then there was a guy by the name of Larry Brilliant. Larry was a epidemiologist. He was one of the two people responsible for the eradication of smallpox in the world. I actually met Larry through Robert Friedland. He was in Vancouver, and in those days he was involved in the company. I got to know him. Always remember Larry, so articulate. He could speak to a group of people for an hour. You could hear a pin drop on that floor. He had everybody's attention. He was articulate. It's just the way he talked. And I picked that up, and I started talking in a similar way to my representatives. And same thing happened. You could drop a pin on the floor, and everybody would listen. And then, of course, my friend Peter here. And Peter, I hate to say this, but I'm going to tell the story about how we got together, which was more than 25 years ago that I met Peter. And I met Peter, and we met at lunch, and he soon said, Michael, we'd like to invest in your company. And he said, but I'd like to have the same position as you do. So I want to become your partner, your silent partner. And we were looking at expanding, and I needed capital, so I was kind of open to the idea. So we worked a deal out, and he said, okay, what we need is 1 month to do a due diligence on CM Oliver. So he sent a team over every day. The team were there asking questions. I mean, it never ended for a whole month. They had their directors meeting. At the end of then I had the call that, the deal's finally done. The call was, Michael, we need another week, right? And I thought, do I really? Yeah, I began to think, another week? That's a long time. So the week, I was going home that night. And the song My Way, Frank Sinatra, comes on the radio, My Way. And I'm thinking, with Peter's involvement, I'm never going to be able to run this company my way. So the next day, I met with Peter, and I said, Peter, I hate to tell you this, but I can't go along with the deal. And I told him what had happened the night before. So to Peter's credit, he smiled. He said, Michael, that's okay. I got to know you. Let's just be friends from here. And we have become he's my best friend today. And we've traveled the world together. And by the way, so is Rita and my wife, Ina. We are the four of us. We're the best of friends. But through the years, definitely Peter he's been just a great mentor of mine. I've learned a lot from this man. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of the mentorship that I've had. It's definitely made a huge, I wouldn't be the person today without the mentors that I've had in my life, for sure.
Thanks so much for that. And I really appreciate hearing and learning about those six mentors that were so impactful in your life. And it's really interesting for us all to take that away in terms of the importance of having mentors. And I love the way in which you talked about it in different ways. What your father was able to provide to you in terms of mentorship, not getting the answers to you, but getting context and perspective and insight and expertise and advice from which you then can make a more informed decision and judgment relative to the situations that are currently at hand. Any comments, Peter, that you want to share with Michael and the rest of us at this point, and any additional follow-up questions when it comes to mentorship for Michael?
Yeah, I love listening to Michael talking because he tells stories, and the stories relate to the times. Like the one letter from his father, the 6-page letter. I'll never forget that story now because it first of all shows the father's love. It shows that Michael was very loved and cared for. Although his dad was probably the hardest working guy in the country, he didn't have really much. I don't think they probably one-on-one time didn't throw many footballs around together, maybe, but he had such an effect on Michael's life, and and Michael himself. I know him so well. He's very aware and he's very transparent. So it's the awareness and transparency that make him. He tells you what he tells you. There's no secrets to Michael, so he's very easy to negotiate with. And I was gonna say a strategy I always use when I negotiate is I'd say, Michael, what's your perfect world? Like, what do you want to come out of this conversation? And Michael very quickly picks up on that, and most good negotiators do. And they try and meet the other person's perfect world. And maybe the bad negotiators, they have in their mind what their goal is, and they ramble on to attain their goal rather than find out what the other guy. And many times the goals are pretty similar. It's just the way you approach it.
Well, from a negotiation perspective, there's not a lot of great schools. There's not a lot of great, programs, workshops, or others on negotiation. Yet we do it every day. we always are negotiating for more time, negotiating for more resources, more money, more people. Can you share a little bit about your key takeaways with Ray? Because I appreciate what Peter's talking about with, coming to the table and coming to the discussion around learning more about the other person from the other side. There is a mutual gains approach in that process, to really understand not just the position of the person, but then also the interest that that person or that company has relative to the negotiation. Michael, can you share a little bit more about negotiation, especially from an entrepreneur's perspective? Because sometimes when we get it wrong, we get it really, really wrong. And there could be a long impact of effect based on getting a negotiation wrong. Any key insights or key takeaways, either from your lessons from Ray or just your own dealings over the years?
I mean, I've been involved with financing many companies over my life. And one thing I've learned is number one, I think, is you have to take your time. There's no rush. Uh, Everybody is looking to raise capital, but it's you just can't be rushed into anything. So basically, take the time to really think this through. I think one of the things that's so important is knowing the chief executive officer or president, the leader of the company that you're talking with, that you're negotiating with. You've got to know everything about him. You've got to know his background. What was his education? What other has he been successful in the past? If this particular opportunity doesn't work out, can they bring another opportunity to the company? What is the budget? I have probably 95% of all the companies that I've ever looked at have never met their first or second year objective. So it's always up in the clouds a little bit. So you've got to look at, first of all, the team leader, but you've got to look at the depth of leadership of whatever it is that you're looking at as well. And there's always, if in the negotiation process, you have to create a bottom line for yourself, and you shouldn't sway from that, because no matter how tempting it is, there's always another deal. There's always another deal and another deal and another deal. So whatever it is you're looking at, don't think that's going to be the last thing in your life, because it's not. The number one criteria with me is, if you're going to get involved with any organization, make sure you get involved with the right people. That makes the huge difference down the road. In many ways, nothing has changed, and in other ways, a lot has changed in the world. What hasn't changed is the fact that there are incredible opportunities that are right there staring us in the face today. Almost every industry today is looking at new technologies. I mean, think that this world is going to be so different in 10 and 20 and 30 years from now from the forces that are taking place today. So one just has to open their eyes, look at these opportunities, because they are there just for the asking. So I think it's a very, very exciting time, basically, for people. You could give so many examples. There's a little poem that I'd like to share with you. I don't know who the author is of this poem, but it's in times of strife, like a lot of people are going through difficult times right now. So I'd just like to walk you through this poem, Tim. And it is something like this. If you think you are beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. If you'd like to win, but think you can, it's almost a cinch you won't. it's if you think you'll lose, you're lost. For out in the world we find success begins with a fellow's will. It's all in the state of mind. Life battles don't always go to the stronger, faster man, but sooner or late, the man who wins is the man who thinks he can. So my advice is to always think positively. Perseverance, don't give up. Hard work. Hard work is very important. If you're going to be successful, you need to be able to work. Focus. Focus all your energy to have the right organization. And one of the most important words, I think, is decision making. So, if you have decisions to make it and get on to the next deal, because it has been my experience that your gut reaction normally will lead you into the right direction. So if every morning I would have a list of things that I wanted to accomplish in that day, and the best thing to do is try and go through this list and just do them, complete them, and decide yes or no. 95% of the time, you're going to be right. And the other 5% is not going to make a difference anyway. So those would be the words that I would describe.
Do you have certain routines that you go through?
I usually get up and have a bowl of oatmeal with some fresh blackberries picked right from our bushes here, or blueberries, a couple of cups of coffee. I sit down in my office for a couple of hours, maybe 2 to 3 hours, oversee my investments, portfolios. I do get involved in the not-for-profit world there, philanthropy. I'm involved with some discussions there, have lunch, and then I do go hiking every day, usually doing between 6 and 9 kilometers. And I do a set of exercises. I've been doing these for years called the 5 Tibetan exercises. And I would suggest that's an incredible thing for everybody to look at. I mean, you can look at, there's books written on these exercises. They take maybe 15 minutes. And I would tell you, every organ and muscle in your body is affected. It's a great way to get up in the morning. So that's part of my routine. And of course, love playing tennis, spending time with my children, grandchildren, wife, reading. Yeah, that's kind of my day.
I would love, Michael, if you wouldn't mind to share a little bit about your focus on giving back.
Both Ian and I got so much more back as a result of our investment. It's hard to describe. I mean, not only do we think we've helped those organizations bring whatever it is, education, art, music, it's the soul of the city. It's made a difference to the whole city. But through those relationships too, we've met the most wonderful people, and they become good friends of ours. And so it's really helped our lives in a major way. It's given us a lot of growth, and so we were very thankful, quite honestly. And of course, I have to thank my successful entrepreneurship as a result of all that, because without being a successful entrepreneur, I wouldn't have had the means really to have gotten involved really with the arts and in philanthropy generally.
I think Michael wrapped it so perfectly. I just want him repeating what he said, because there was a big article in Wall Street Journal the other day about a leader has to provide certainty to his people. And if the leader shakes and quivers and worries and all that kind of thing without any positiveness, then the whole team will. So you can shake and quiver, but you're going to say, we're going to get out of this, and here's how we're going to do it. Today I can't change yesterday. I can't change tomorrow. I can only make something different today. And that's what Michael says. That's mindset. And make sure you have the best day possible. Do everything you can today to solve your challenges. And I think, Michael, you're a phenomenal interview. You're a great friend, and I'm a little biased, but uh, I learned a lot myself, Michael, just sitting listening to you. I always do. So thank you for being part of the Peter Thomas Entrepreneurial Masterclass, Michael. It'll be enjoyed by many people down through the ages now, and I'm proud to have you on tape. Thank you, Tim, for your participation.